Hello, everyone. It's Klint Macro with Meet the Pressers. I'm here with Matt Mallory and our very special guest for our live 2025 NRA Annual Meeting wrap-up. His name is Rob Pincus, but I bet you already knew that already because his name's down there at the bottom. How you doing, Rob?
Fact, I'm great. How are you doing? I just got back to the office a few hours ago after a great. You guys?
Oh, you skipped.
Cut out.
You cut out. There, you're back.
I'm back. All right. I am back. I'm back, and I'm back in my office after a great weekend. It was good to see you guys.
Good to see you as well.
It was fun. We had a great time. I actually got back myself. Before annual meeting, I was teaching in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and so I parked my car in Harrisburg and flew from Harrisburg down, came back, and just got back from Harrisburg. Literally walked in the door about 25 minutes ago. My wife put a plate of food in front of me, and here I am. So I'm reasonably wrecked. I got to tell you, it's a little tiring. Interestingly enough, I had the sniffles down at a NRA annual meeting, and I was concerned perhaps I had some type of illness, some kind of we'll call it the annual meeting crud. But in fact, my wife thought that it was pollen. That pollen's pretty crazy down there. Like people's cars were covered with it. So interestingly enough, as soon as I started breathing Pennsylvania air, I immediately felt relief. Still a little tested right now, but yeah, I actually feel a lot better now that I'm in my own world. Either that or I'm allergic to Atlanta, which I suppose is possible, but I don't think so.
Atlanta, right? So what things down there, Rob, were that stood out to you? What kind of things did you like there at the annual meeting?
Let's see. Well, obviously I'm down there. I'm engaged in a lot of the NRA politics and the board meetings and the meeting of the members is always a big focus for me. So that was Saturday. It was a very, very productive meeting for the members, a very important proposal, which was actually submitted by a newly elected board member who you guys know, John Richardson, who's been very active in the reform movement. It was a transparency-oriented proposal, and it passed, which was great to see. Nice. A very clearly reform-oriented proposal pass, even against old guard opposition. It's hard to believe that's still going on, but it is. But in much better news, the reform-supported candidate for the 76th seat, Charles Gott, he won the 76th seat, and in even better news, Bill Bockenberg, who has been a very vocal critic of the former regime, is, as of today, the newly elected president of the National Rifle Association. And that is a sea change. Last year's slate of officers was a compromise slate with an old guard president and some new names, Mark Vaughn and Bill Bockenberg, in as officers. Of course, Doug Hamlin has been a great new executive vice president, replacing the humiliated, exiled Wayne LaPierre. And now we have Rocky Marshall has joined the slate of officers, who also is a very, very pro-evolution, let's say, along with Mark Vaughn, and now Bill Bockenberg is the president, which is amazing. The only real legacy name left on the slate of officers is John Fraser as the secretary. And while he absolutely was, neck deep in the Wayne LaPierre regime, he is such an institution and does such honestly a good job of all the admin and kind of bureaucratic things that happen at the NRA and need to happen at the NRA. I completely understand why the board has chosen to keep him on, even with his tie to the old regime. He has a lot of institutional knowledge.
Yeah, his name is on all of the NRA certificates that leave too. Yep. Yeah, he's been there for quite a while.
Yeah, and if they can keep control of him, or at least, he sees the writing on the wall and he, kind of gets in line, then.
Well, I mean, it's
an employee position. It's not a board position. It's a position where you have a job to do and you do that job really well.
Right.
One could argue he was, quote unquote, just doing his job in the past as well. But in my interactions with him, he's always been very professional. And I think he is an asset in his skill set and knowledge to the NRA. And moving forward, like I said, I'm not surprised to see him on there, where I can see where reformists who may not know the details might look at it and say, well, you still got that guy on there from before. And I've seen his name in the court's documents and all the legal battles and all that. But as a way of explaining why, if there was anybody who was going to stay from the old regime, John Fraser makes sense.
Yeah. I've had very limited interactions with him, but when I did get a chance to speak to him twice, he was very professional and very respectful too. It seemed.
Yep.
At the time I met him the first time, like I was no big deal to meet, man, but he was still very respectful and very caring about the input that I was giving at the time. We were talking about some of the curriculum changes years ago, but I didn't get a chance to do any of the political stuff. Frankly, I didn't even get a chance really to walk the floor. Matt and I were like jam packed doing classes and doing the interviews. But I will say there definitely was a bit of a feeling of optimism for the future. And I had a chance to talk to a lot of the newer board members, and Matt and I were talking about this the first time, and maybe it's because we're older and we know more people, but I know a lot of people on the board now, and I know. At least I have a pretty good idea where their head's at, and I think the future looks pretty damn bright, especially if things continue to go. You had talked about there were some legacy people last year, but I kind of look at that as a transition. It wasn't necessarily as much of it may have been a compromise at the moment, but we see how things have been able to progress, and maybe that's for hard fighting, or maybe that's because it was a transitional period.
Yeah, I think a lot of people mentioned that I had gone kind of quiet this year in terms of, reporting or giving my opinion or giving updates. This really was a year of transition. And even from my perspective, the ballot that was advertised as NRA 2.0, there were some names on there that I still remain skeptical of being reformist. Some people who were very involved in the old regime, who have maybe taken on a new mantle and maybe just seen the writing on the wall and chosen to throw their hat in with the evolution of the NRA, which now I think is inevitable and is moving along. But I would have been hard pressed to throw my name, for example, on that ballot with people who were so neck deep involved in the malfeasance and craziness that had gone on for so long and defending it, most importantly. So I was very quiet this year because I really did want to see exactly what was going to happen, because with the president and Bob Barr is, a great fighter for the Second Amendment, and in another era without the cloud of Wayne LaPierre's endorsement and being tied together, hanging over him, he might be a great president, but he definitely was not the one I supported for the position last year. And even though we had reformers on the board and reformers in officer positions, the president wields a lot of power, and it could have been, the year could have gone differently. And that transition year, which we're calling it now in retrospect, could very much have been a loss of momentum for the reform movement. But
I think everyone was concerned that might have been the case. Yeah. I feel optimistic.
Yeah, for sure. But on the floor, I did get some time on the floor, and I got to see some really cool stuff. Checkpoint USA is the thing that's on my mind today. They're bringing, you guys know I have an affinity for the Czech Republic. I've spent a lot of time there. I've done some work there, teaching work and firearms, design and development work, as well as marketing work and stuff. I really like that country. I like the people. They have an incredible firearms history, and Checkpoint USA is bringing the VZ61 and 58s into the country, and there's some really cool things happening where they're expanding the line. They've got some braced pistol versions of the 58, which is just a really cool evolution. The Czech Republic was Czechoslovakia at the time was one of the few countries under the umbrella of the Soviet Union that decided to not go down the road of the AK-47 and do their own thing. And that VZ58 is a really cool firearm that I've spent a lot of time with students over in Slovakia and the Czech Republic and other places. So I'm excited about what they're doing. The 61 is just kind of a novelty, but it's a cool novelty, kind of a spy movie, James Bond movie novelty. It's fun. Did you guys get a chance? Have you guys had any experience with those platforms, or do you see those guns?
The Bruno thing? No.
That's I've actually got one of those sitting back there that I can't touch. The PSD. No, this is these are from like the 1958 and
Oh, he's hung up. Well, I bet, and I'll say this because I know he'll pop back on. I'm pretty sure I would, if I saw that, I'd go, oh, those. But by the model number, no, I can't say that I do. But he's really hung up there.
Yeah,
he'll come back on. So yeah, I didn't really get to see anything on the floor.
Same here.
Aside from, I went down and saw some friends from the USCCA, and of course, you and I visited a few different booths of our sponsors, and we got a chance to talk to them and even shoot a little bit of footage at a couple of them. I was
hacking at NRA Annual Meeting too. So you got compadre there.
Oh, Atlanta is rough. Okay,
a real fruit ninja of somebody. Me too, and I live in Georgia. Yeah, Rob fell off, so he'll come back on. I got to watch for him here. We got I got back to the Ozarks and I'm all good. Yeah,
okay,
so look at that
air quality. Yeah,
that's crazy.
I was worried that I had like sickness, and I was like hand sanitizing in front of people and then like doing the elbow bump and stuff. But what really made me consider that. Oh, thanks, Jerry.
It's kind of you, Jerry.
Yeah, very, very. Thank you. Yeah, I was considering that, and then when we came out of the party at Patrick's, and someone had written a phallic symbol on someone's windshield because the pollen was so thick, and I realized, oh wait, that's pollen, and then I told my wife that, and she says, no, it's allergy. She says, get some Claritin in the morning, and you'll feel better. And so I did get some Claritin, and I was a little better that day, but I certainly am better now that feeling better now that I'm back here. And then I got to ride pretty much more than halfway across the Commonwealth to get home.
I've had that here, like out doing stuff before I left. Actually, I went out, was trying to get the garden ready, and I was pulling beans down, all the bean pods that had been sitting out there and dried out over the winter and everything. So a lot of the husk of the bean pods had like, mold and stuff on it, and just dirt, and then there's just the dust from the dry pods anyways. And so I was sitting in the kitchen and basically crushing these bean pods in my hands, and the bean seeds would fall out, and then I'd throw the husks in a bag to put in the compost. And then a little bit later, I'm like, uh-oh. Because the dust and the pollen and all that stuff was coming up in my face.
The dust of the bean pods. That's a good name for it's a good name for not for an album, but it's a good name for he's back.
For a band.
Dust of the bean pod. It's a good name for like a sci-fi movie.
Dust of the
like people get the dust and then they turn into like zombies or some shit.
That's funny. The
dust of the bean pods. You came in the middle of a conversation. You have to watch the playback to understand what the hell.
I think that's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers meets Andromeda's brain, isn't it?
So where we left off, you were asking about that, and my answer is, I bet if I saw one, I'd go, oh yeah, but by the model number, I'm not familiar with those guns.
The Scorpion, the one with the folding wire stop that comes over the little one. You've seen that one.
Oh yeah, that I've seen. Yeah,
and then the 58 is one that has like almost like a little bit of a triangular kind of bolt that moves back and forth, kind of like an AK, but evolved and more. You see more into the gun, almost like a Beretta 92 when it opens up. So that whole bolt comes back, like an SKS or something. Anyway, they're cool guns. Check them out. And Checkpoint, Infitac. Did you guys see that little pistol-mounted thermal optic?
No,
that sounds
little tiny. It's like 2 inches by 2 inches, maybe 2 by 2.5. And unlike some of the tiny thermals we've seen over the last few years, this one is shipping and ready to go already. I'm hoping to have one here by the end of next week.
Awesome.
Not necessarily for a pistol, although it's kind of cool. But I'm thinking of it as a very lightweight, like predator control. I'm going to use it. I'm going to keep an eye on what's going on out in the chicken coop and put it on top of a little suppressed AR or even a suppressed 22 for raccoons and possums and foxes and whatever else might try to get in there. But so Infitac, that's a new company that I wasn't familiar with. I was excited about them.
Yeah, are they like? Do you remember those old Torrey Pines ones that were about? They were like a little tiny EOTech. The window was literally like an 1.5 inches by an inch, but they're thermal. I have one. Those actually work pretty good. But are they really small? You're saying these new thermals you're talking about?
He's frozen again.
Oh, he frozen again.
See,
he froze on one of those looks like he's disgusted with me.
Or he's contemplating what you're saying. He's just taking it all in. It's funny because I was talking to him about his off the grid house when we were down there in Atlanta, and he's talking about how long it's taken him to build it and how big it is and all the wood he's using.
This is totally. I am so disappointed with you, man. I took a picture. Isn't that? I'm totally
It
disappointed.
is.
You photo.
Like, how
or
dare
picture.
you, Klint? It does look like that. That's funny. That's funny.
See, I'm
So
gonna
why don't
be
we
sad all
what-
night now.
why don't we do this while we're waiting for him to? Nope, he just popped off, so he'll be coming back on in a second.
Okay.
While he's doing that, let's name 2 winners of 2 of the giveaways.
Okay.
And
Let's do it.
So check your Facebook messages. So earlier you randomly gave me a number. I pulled up the list and pulled the name, gave it to you. So why don't you do Mantis? Who is the winner of Mantis? You got that in your Facebook message?
Looking for the Mantis Titan X.
Mantis Titan X. Correct.
Okay. Are we ready? Drum roll.
We're ready.
The winner of the Mantis Titan X Smart Laser Training Pistol is Reba Tucker.
Reba
Reba Tucker, you won the Mantis Titan X Smart Laser Training Pistol.
Very nice. And here comes Rob back in, bringing Rob in. So I'll pick one, and then Rob can pick one, and then
I got to show Rob this picture.
Yeah.
So,
I think I fixed the problem. If I drop out again, I'm going to
here, you got it. Look at this though, Rob. This was your freeze frame, and it looks like you're completely disgusted with me, like you're upset and disgusted with me.
No, that was my reaction to. I didn't put my glasses on to see it. That was my reaction to my internet falling again.
I was just saying, after your internet fell, I said we were talking at I think it was at Patrick and KD's party up there in the penthouse about the house you're building and how long it's taking to build it, and you're off the grid. And I'm thinking you're the grid.
I'm in my office now.
What's
the problem is we've got all these robots out here on the factory floor, and the way the IT guy in the building has explained it is there's a system that backs up during the night for all the job work that all the computers talk about, and the robots tend to do more at night off the. So they've warned me when I'm here after hours, suck it.
When the cat's away, the mice will play, huh?
Right.
I guess.
We got a few
trust robots, man.
We got a few comments here.
I got a taser. I think I can EMP him or something with a taser if they come around the corner.
Now, you see, the funny thing is,
I get that shit on camera.
When you said robots, I immediately thought of like robot.
iRobot. I thought of iRobot. Like they're
I'm like, oh yeah, he's at the
To be fair, it's more like Daleks, if anything. Like it's just robot arms, but if they suddenly put wheels on those tables and show up here, we're gonna have a problem.
Did you see those Chinese like companion robots? They're pretty impressive.
Oh, those are
Were they at the show?
No, they not at this show.
Oh.
That was the AVN show at SHOT Show that he was talking about. He's over there.
I missed that.
So while you were out, we pulled the winner for the Mantis Titan. So that was Reba. She won.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna pick next level training. We randomly picked numbers, looked at the Excel spreadsheet from all the data, and whatever that number was on that line number is the winner of that giveaway for each one. So for the next level training cert 110 performer red training pistol, that's going to be Matt Foro.
Matt Foro.
Congratulations, Matt.
Good job, Matt.
So why don't you do access sites, Rob? If you want to read access sites.
James Yeager is laughing at us right now, looking down that Rob Pincus is giving away big dot sites. That was one of our infamous arguments over and over again. David Vasquez.
Nice.
Is the winner.
Congratulations, David.
Super. Oh, you couldn't let me do the next one, which the next one I actually like that thing, but go ahead.
All right, we'll do the next one.
I wasn't going to go through all of them. I was going to do 3 and then talk a little.
Okay, well, McLean Sling coming up next.
Yes, coming up soon. Stay tuned for McLean Sling. All right, so anything else, Klint, that you saw besides the robots?
Yeah, pretty much. I saw the inside, the hanky as I blew my nose.
Yeah,
and I saw like cables and microphones and stuff. I will say, walking around, I really didn't see much. I got to be honest, and not even like, oh, look at that thing, look at that thing.
iRobot, isn't it a vacuum, Jerry? Rob, every time we try to set something up, I'm like, all right, let's schedule it, and Rob's like, schedule? I don't schedule. And we kick ourselves because like we scheduled everything so tight that like we didn't even have time to get up. We did the same thing at SHOT Show. So next time I go to do that, Klint, you got to kick me. Say no, don't do that, because
yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah.
we weren't
It's
sure
hard,
that
right? You have to schedule some things, but
Right.
but really, like,
You don't want
I
to
think
build your
these
whole
things are better done with send me a text message at 4 PM and say, can you jump on at 8?
yeah.
Like, but this kind of a thing. Now I gotta schedule attending the NRA show, but I don't know how. Like we were supposed to get together there, but the members meeting went 4 hours instead of 2.
Right.
Last year the old guard put in a hard stop so that things couldn't be debated. It's one of their control aspects. Well, this year again to the point of evolution and reform. The old guard didn't get to put a hard stop on it this time. It was open for debate, and some good debate was had and discussion was had. And that's why it went for 4 hours, which is, I know a lot of members that attended were sort of caught off guard and they're like, I want to get back to the floor. Well, you can read the press releases about the goodies on the floor if you need to. Members should in a large part be there to do the business of membership, especially at this point in the reform and reboot of the NRA.
Yeah. I think that we were thinking that too, as far as we'll have people that we never see but at those shows, or we haven't had them on the show before. We definitely want to have them sit down and do face-to-face interview with us. But the ones that have been on before, or the ones that we have quick access to and texting and stuff, or we know we're going to see them at the next show, those ones we might reserve for Zoom sessions or the next show. In that case. So I think we gotta be more organized with it. That's all, especially now doing the Voices of the Second Amendment, where we're going to be a mainstay and have a booth, which is pretty
cool. That's cool.
Us being there, we're wearing a couple different hats. Obviously we're there to market our businesses, and we're there to get content for the show. And of course we were both contracted to do seminars. And of course that's not just 2 hours, do the seminar. It's like prep and setup and all that other stuff.
I know. I used to do those seminars, and it's not only is it maybe more work than people think it is, but it also does take away from the other things you get to do. I was glad to be able to jump in on and listen to some of yours, Matt. Klint, you had just finished up as I arrived in the room where you were speaking. But I was glad to see you guys doing that. And it kind of caught me off guard that you guys, were set up obviously you guys are your own guys and you do your own training, you do your own stuff. But because I was in the mindset of thinking of you guys as the Meet the Pressers team, having you both in different rooms, I got sucked into yours, Matt, for too long, and I missed Klint's.
Yeah, Matt's seminar is like a stand-up comedy act, and I'm told mine is like a church revival.
I could buy that. I've seen you teach. Obviously, I buy that for sure.
Yeah. Yes.
As you're going out, you gave me a thumbs up, and I'm like,
yeah. I got done with mine on the first day, and then I kind of meandered over. Matt had his start time overlapped, and I came in and just sat in the back. And yeah. I mean, I've seen Matt teach before too, but this seminar is pretty well oiled. It was a good show.
I actually popped into John Lott, and John Lott is one that I don't always agree with. I feel like John Lott is our version of, Giffords or whatever. I mean, he takes the data and presents it in a way that definitely, benefits the traditional arguments that we make for gun rights. And we need
Gifford Foundation.
We need that on our side too. But with Crime Prevention Center, sometimes John will take the data and I get it. It's like it's valid to present it that way, but we have to say that sometimes about the other side. It's valid to present it that way, but we always need the deeper explanation. Over the years, I've celebrated a lot of the stuff and obviously shared a lot of stuff he's done, but I haven't always, thought that's the best way to present our arguments. But I did pop into his seminar, and in particular, he was talking about myths of gun control was his seminar. And he was talking about how disingenuously the gun grabbers, the anti-gunners approach the issues of we respect your rights and we want to compromise and we want to work with you. And he was actually talking about how when he's on these panels and CNN or whatever, he will propose certain compromises, if you will, to the anti-gunners. Say, well, what if we gave up this? Would that be good enough for you? And I'll write an op-ed with you tomorrow, and we'll go on air right now, and we'll say we both agree that this trade for this would be good. And he says he can never get them to move an inch, even when he offers to move pretty significantly. Right. He gave some examples. And I'll tell you, I'm working on a project with Tufts University right now, where it's got people from both sides of the argument on it. And we're seeing that. We're seeing, a lot of reasonable discussion and rational discussion until it comes time to put stuff on paper for a proposal for like state laws regarding ERPOs who should be exempted from background checks completely, and they aren't willing to give much up. It's for the most part. It's really been frustrating to be able to come to the table and say, we think there are negatives that come with guns in the world that we can work against, and the data says we can work against those outcomes, but we're not willing to give up rights or just pretend that these aren't rights and it's just some kind of weird privilege that we're allowed to have. And it's hard to find any compromise. And John Lott's presentation really hit on that note for me.
Yeah, I don't know if it's. I mean, I'm sure it's a mixture of all. Sometimes it might just be that they're unwilling to do that, or maybe the person you're talking to doesn't know how to respond after they're off their fourth talking point of that particular issue.
I promise you, on this project, we're going deep. I mean, that's why I'm holding this pen actually, and I have these notes in front of me. I don't need to take notes with you guys. We just did a 2-hour Zoom, and I don't know, it's probably been about 40 hours worth of Zooms, 2 hours at minimum at a time for a few months now, and it's going to go on for a few more months. So it's more than just talking points for sure. It's being facilitated by an organization that specializes in bringing people with opposite points of view together, and they've got some great ways of formatting it so that everybody gets to be heard and nobody gets to just retreat to rhetoric. So it's interesting.
Good.
Yeah, I was in an office with an anti-gun representative from Eastern Pennsylvania, and she wanted me to come on board with a mandatory training bill.
Yeah,
no, absolutely not. And so we talked back and forth about it. And of course, me being someone who makes a living training people, it just didn't make sense to her why I wouldn't be on board with that. Because I mean, as we see in states where there is mandatory training, it creates an industry. And so I finally said, you know what, you want me to get on board with this? And she says, yeah. And I said, you know what you could do that would make me even like celebrate this and push it out there? And she says, what? I said, make it mandatory in 5th grade.
Yeah. That's one of the things on our agenda.
5th grade, and everyone does it in 5th grade. Yep. I said, I will get behind that. And she's like, oh, no, we can't do that. So, is it about education or is it about control?
Right. Yeah. We haven't gotten to debate that, but that's absolutely one of the things that's on the agenda. And one of the things that you've heard me talk about elementary school mandatory, not guns are bad, run away. I mean, I want to go even further than, which really is what Eddie Eagle says to a large degree. I want to go even further and say, here's what responsible gun ownership looks like. And here's why it's okay to have guns, but only if you're following these best practices and responsibility issues. But also another thing I'm really pushing for in this group is tax deductions for training. So that if we decide as a nation this is a public health issue and we want to encourage people to get more training and be more responsible, cool. Tax deduction for not only the tuition costs but also your expenses involved in it. If you have to travel, you're buying ammo, all that kind of stuff. So that's something we're hoping to get some traction with.
That's a great incentive and a good reward for people that go, become responsible gun owners and seek out training. Because obviously we want people to seek out training, but to make it mandated by the state,
right?
Yeah, unless it's 5th grade and everybody gets it in 5th grade. It's training for everybody in 5th grade.
So here's one, and I don't think we've had this discussion, Rob. I know Klint and I have had it. Right, a well-regulated militia. The well-regulated. I kind of interpret that as well-trained. Would you interpret that the same way, or what's your thoughts on the well-regulated? Because I'm not saying the government should mandate it. I think people should be well-regulated on their own, but I think that's why we're not seeing a lot of lawsuits against New York State's mandated training, because it's kind of been commonplace in that sense.
Right. So there's a semantic argument about a contextual use of language for that time period, that well-regulated could also mean well-equipped. And so there's some asterisks on that. I mean, let's be honest. The wording of the Second Amendment isn't the best, right? At the end of the day, when you're predicating the right to keep and bear arms on a requirement that may not be the only reason to keep and bear arms, and when you're throwing in the well-regulated, looking, if you could look backwards 250 years or 240 years, you didn't set us up as well as possible, right? So there's some other better verbiage there. So debating the semantics, this is where I may not agree with the rhetoric or the normal talking points as much as some others, or maybe some people would like. I do think we have to look at these things in an evolved context, and the evolved context, when we talk about how are you going to deal with braced pistols? Well, how are you going to deal with the fact that if you go back on why are braced pistols even a question, it's because of short-barreled rifles. Or why are short-barreled rifles even a question? It's because in the 30s, our country came close to banning handguns. Yeah. And then the idea, well, okay, we're not going to ban handguns. We don't want people just chopping the front and the back of a rifle off and being able to say, you know, that's a handgun. Now that was stuck in the middle there somewhere, and that got left over, even though handguns didn't get banned. And we've got all these little hiccups along the way. And what we're in the process of now, I really believe, and we have been since the 80s, 60s really, but especially the 80s, late 80s, is regaining lost rights. And we've done an incredible job. Concealed carry is the most obvious place that's happened. I think Hearing Protection Act is something that we're probably going to see some movement on one way or another. We're continuing to regain lost rights. And that phrase well-regulated, it's a problem for me, because it's open to interpretation. And if it means well-trained or well-equipped, either way, there is no statement that says regulated by the government. It's not equipped by the government. It's not trained by the government. That clause at the end is the one I really like. And that's the one we keep going back to, shall not be infringed. Yeah, so in other words, don't get in our way of training. Don't restrict us from it. I mean, the NRA, when I first started doing the DVDs for the NRA, we weren't allowed to have human-shaped targets, right? Like the NRA was getting in the way of modern defensive training willingly by doctrine. You know, you can't call it a weapon, that kind of stuff. So we've done some of this to ourselves, and it was because after the 60s, a lot of the industry and the leadership of the organizations and the gun community they wanted to just hide. Let's pretend this is about hunting and traditions and all that. And we realized in the 90s, that's not going to fly. We got to come at this for what it is, which is the right to keep and bear arms for purposes of defense, which very may well escalate to the protection of our country. But in the modern sense, that's not the limitation. And I do regret some of the wording of the Second Amendment, or I lament, I guess I didn't do it. I don't regret it. I lament some of the wording of the Second Amendment, because we do have to have these arguments.
Yeah, Article 1, Section 21 in Pennsylvania is much clearer. You know, the right of the citizen to bear arms in defense of themselves in the state shall not be questioned. You know, bear arms in defense of self.
Right. And then I mean, go back to my affinity for the Czech Republic. The Czech Republic has it in their constitution too, and it says explicitly for the purposes of defense.
Yeah.
So speaking of chopping it off in the front and chopping it off in the back, I did this today.
Oh, I thought you were gonna tell us
something. No, I'm not touching it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What is that for?
Yeah, that's why exactly. Just because you could.
Just because you could. Well,
SOT says go.
It's an SBS
to do stuff like that.
It's an SBS. So I chopped off the stock, I chopped off the barrel, and I built a 20-inch with a. I think it's a. I can't remember.
Hey, can I shoot high-speed video of you shooting that in prone so I can watch it bounce off your forehead?
No. That's going to be for the fun gun shoot.
Someone was 12 years old or so. They were handed an Ithaca featherweight 12 gauge with buckshot magnum loads with no barrel and no stock raid gun from a family member who was in law enforcement. And it flew back, hit my hand, kind of came over on my hand from where it had been chopped off, cut my hand open, flew back, hit my shoulder, landed on the ground behind me somewhere. Wow. I've been figuratively gun shy on SBSs since I was 12.
There's Patrick.
Hey, Patrick,
thanks for throwing a great party.
Yeah, that was great.
And he makes an amazing grill cooked pizza.
Yeah, he's such a good host. Hospitality. He picked me up at the airport.
A lot of the people there, we had Kevin invited, co-hosted with Patrick, and a lot of the people that were there that knew Kevin from the training side were really impressed with what they saw from Gun Food. And of course, I've been familiar with what Patrick's been doing there, getting people some great ammo options and getting it to them quickly when ordered through his website. It's appreciate what you do, Patrick.
Absolutely.
I was talking to Matt, after we were kind of reflecting on the, actually it was Diana Muller had mentioned that it's like going to these shows is like old home week or like a reunion or something. And and just Matt and I are very, very blessed to have some really, really quality people that we hang out with. And I think that really helps all of us to raise our game a little bit, because I'll see something Rob's doing, or I'll see something, Kevin Dixie is doing, like, ooh, I want to, that makes me want to do even better. That makes me want to reach out and try to go a little higher myself. So yeah, it's
For sure.
good to be around quality people.
Absolutely. You had mentioned, Rob, as far as the classes, Clint and I were talking about doing maybe a joint class together, kind of mixing our two classes into one and maybe doing 2 hours total. And then that way we're not running around and overlapping, and because it could literally eat up more time in the day. But so that was something that we were discussing possibly too, to help offset that time.
And we actually both had people show up and said they wanted to take the class because they knew us from the show, which was, they wanted to come to class because they knew us from the show, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Want to read that one?
It's always a mix of, some people show up for the personalities that are teaching, and some people show up for the topic that's being taught. And that's always been one of the highlights of the annual meeting from the NRA side. I don't think they put as much emphasis on it, honestly, as they used to. But it is definitely awesome that they continue to do it and that people continue to take advantage of it.
Well, I had seen your videos through the NRA. That's how I was first introduced to your material. And the first time I met you was I came to one of your seminars at NRA Annual Meeting and talked to you. And, of course, I was just one of many people that you didn't know who the hell I was. And I kept pestering you. And then I think that year was the first year I hosted you, and you came out, and that began like a love affair, kind of.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, now I get to like crash at your house. I know your family. I've watched your boy grow up into a very tall young man, very responsible and articulate. And it's been fun being friends. And I'd forgotten that that's where we met. It's got to be a decade now, I'm sure.
Oh, easy.
More than that.
Yeah, I had a student that in class, he's like, "Hey, I've been watching this PDN network stuff and Rob Pincus," and I'm like, "What's a Rob Pincus?"
What?
And that's how. So, student.
That sounds like a drink or a sexual position.
Or drinking during your sexual position.
And in the comments, put what that position would look like in your mind.
Hang on, I made that earlier today too. So real fruit ninja, my state's getting constitutional carry back, pistol braces and FRT triggers. On that FRT triggers, force reset triggers, double set triggers. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I mean, I thought is like that's like going from here to England and driving on the right side of the car, or putting the brake on the left side. We're accustomed to the way it is. Is it a good idea to switch that up in something that's so important as far as like being able to shoot the gun efficiently and consistently?
So it's a novelty. You do it for fun. You don't do it for any other reason than a novelty. And I'll give you an example.
Kind of like full auto.
No, kind of like that gun you just showed us. There's no practical purpose for it.
Here's how you address it. God bless you. I think this is important for anybody that wants to put one of these in. When the JSD supply guys came to me about their binary trigger, shoots to for people to know what we're talking about. It's when you pull the trigger, it goes bang, and when you release the trigger, it goes bang. And they didn't really ask me what I thought, but you don't have to ask me. As you know, if I'm around, I'm going to tell you what I think. So I said, guys, if you're going to ship this, if you're going to put this in the world, please ship it. If it was for Glock, drop in trigger for Glock, please ship it with a bright red or a bright orange or a bright yellow, not blue, because that's the training color, the non-lethal color, but a bright colored, backplate, so that it goes on there. And that way, someone who has 8 Glocks or 38 Glocks or however many Glocks someone might have, when they grab that gun, that backplate signifies that it is the one that when you let go of the trigger, it's going to go bang. And at least the owner then has a visual reminder that's in their face when they're driving out to shoot the gun if they forgot. And so I think that's the kind of stuff we have to do with the novelty stuff. When you're going to take something that there is a way this works, and then everybody, quote unquote, knows guns, they're going to pick that gun up confidently and assume that they can pull the trigger and it's only going to go bang once. You wouldn't think of just laying a full auto Glock down and not letting everybody know this Glock will fire all the bullets in the magazine. So the same thing with a binary trigger, force reset trigger, whatever we're calling them today.
That's a good point.
So I do think there's a place for them. The place is it's fun. And if you're going to do something just for fun, you need to put some checks in place so that it doesn't cause a negligence issue.
Well, that's good. That's good. Good info. All right.
Yeah, Jerry had Maxwell. That's the modern definition of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, they do. JSD they do ship that with a bright backplate. So they took me up on the advice and they decided it was the right thing to do.
That's smart. That's smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
That's
right.
the modern Black's Law Dictionary definition, Jerry. I absolutely, yeah, that's the one that gets argued by the anti-gunners. Yep.
Mm-hmm. McLean, Rob, go ahead. Pick the winner for McLean.
Shannon Eisen or Eason, I-S-O-N. Shannon Eisen for the McLean Corp combo, which is also the M-Lock adapter, but it's a developed by a Navy SEAL, kind of, has some ideas about holding a gun close to the body and then dropping it out on a single point when you need to use it. And it's a really cool sling. I've been a fan of it ever since I got my hands on one.
Yeah,
we interviewed with Neil.
They're very stout. Very stout.
All right. And then I am going to pick the winner for ESS Eyewear, Credence Carbon Gray with mirrored brass.
See, I don't have mine to put on. When you say ESS, I usually flip my glasses on.
Yes, you do. And the winner is Rob Griffith.
Rob,
congratulations, Rob.
Rob's going to be, did I win?
Rob Griffith. Okay, you want me to do the next one?
Yeah, go ahead. Do it.
Okay, for the Gideon Optics Judge XL. This is a pistol optic. Is that the one with the really ginormous window? The Judge XL?
I don't know.
The
image of it's up on the site. Hang on.
I'm impressed with all the Gideon products so far. But let me get back to it. For the winner of the Gideon Optics Judge XL pistol optic, Megan Hilbish, Hilbish. Congratulations, Megan.
Good job. Very cool. All right, we're getting down there. Gentlemen. So what do you guys have going on coming up around the country?
What do I have coming
up? You want me to answer? I can answer Jerry. Do we answer Jerry's question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yes, I have. I have shot it. I shot it when it was first released. It's pretty cool. Laser etched grip. Feels really good. It feels better than the standard 365. I find the grip on the 365 to be a little bit broomstickish. It's kind of short and squat, and your fingers kind of get on top of each other, try to get a two-handed grip. But the texture on the fuse was nice. It was definitely an improvement. I like what they've done. That's my thoughts on that gun. Is the barrel's too short and the grip's too tiny. But if as a combat gun, some people want that. But the fuse is a nice evolution of the original design for sure.
I still think they owe me money for using my name on that macro. And if ever I get up there, I'm gonna tell somebody.
I had an interesting conversation with one of their execs about what they've been dealing with the 320 a couple nights ago, and
they're gonna come out with rubber Cerakote.
No,
so it bounces.
No rubber Cerakote.
my whole thing is that the trigger. I get that it's drop safe and that it's been tested to death and they've gone above and beyond on the drop safe stuff. I feel strongly that they should have put a tab safety on that safety just because it's industry best practice, and that probably would give them a much better argument and plausible deniability on the vast majority of these court cases, and it might actually have prevented some of those discharges from going off.
Well, they put a mechanical safety on the P365 that you can get it with or without. So, I mean,
well, right? I'm not I wouldn't. That's not, to me, putting a manual safety on a striker fired gun is just dumb. But but putting a tab safety on a trigger that you're going to be that is on a gun that is intended to be holstered inside the waistband, concealed. It's arguably a defensive gun, or in a dynamic environment like law enforcement or military environment. And I know the military one has a manual safety, but for the law enforcement ones that don't, I just think a tab safety is a no-brainer. And I also kind of get where, and just speculation here, not inside information, but I could see where they're so far in now that if they were to come out with a tab safety, when they did that original not update or not recall that they called an update, that gun was really new then. So, SIG, maybe there were tens of thousands out there maybe, but it was relatively small for SIG. Now, a decade in, to come out now and say, okay, we decided to put a tab safety creates probably a huge, liability on all the ones.
Oh, gotcha kind of thing. Yeah, that's for sure. Explain what you mean by tab safety. I don't think I've heard of it.
The little
Trigger safety.
dongle on the trigger.
So the what Glock calls a safe action, but I usually call it
all the
trigger
stuff,
safety.
very specifically that little dongle that sits. I can't pick up a gun.
It sticks
trigger
on the back
safety.
of the trigger like this. So when you press the trigger, it goes
trigger
like
safety.
that.
Trigger
So
safety.
what happens is there's two things about those. Most people see them and they think it's about if the side of the trigger gets snagged and you don't have a full purchase on the center of the trigger, that it won't let the trigger move. And that is true. That is, I think, one of the most important things that they do. But in function, for a lot of guns, and in fact, that prime carry that you just got from Canik is a great example of this. If you look at it close, it's a PDN tour gun this year. I know you can't pick it up now, but it has the whole front of the gun is the pivoting piece.
Right.
If you think about the M&P where it pivots in the middle to remove that block, and what those designs reveal is that for many guns, that's actually a drop safety because the trigger itself has a certain amount of weight, which means it has a certain amount of inertia that if you drop it on its back, the weight of the trigger could cause the gun to discharge just because of the inertia of the trigger moving.
That's the whole P320, right?
Well, maybe, but not when we have
trigger.
videos of it going down into a holster. And I'm assuming that something is in there pushing the trigger backwards as the gun goes down. I don't think the timing just happens to be the gun decided to go off as somebody pushed it down into the holster. They got something in there, whether it's clothes, fingers, sticks, leftover gummy bears, whatever. That's what I would assume.
That makes sense. That could fix that issue.
So it would address some of those. But a lot of people will chastise me for saying that part of it because, well, that's actually a drop safety, Rob. Yeah, I get it. I have a gun that has one of them on there. I realize it acts as a drop safety, but it also acts as an accident preventer or a negligence overcomer when something gets in the way of getting the gun completely into the holster. Or if you think about somebody grabbing it at close quarters, right? If you get into a tussle with the gun, somebody reaches over to grab your gun, it might also be prevented from being fired when you don't have a proper, engagement of the trigger from a proper grip.
Yeah, I have to say the design on the Canik Prime that's pretty cool, man.
It's the jury's out for me. I put up a post right before NRA last week. I shot the MC9 LS and the Prime Carry, which is for people that were asked about the Fuse, the Prime Carry is like their super duper upgrade, all the bells and whistles version of the MC9 LS, but also it's American made, which is really important. And that's why we're focusing on it as the tour gun this year. But I really like the MC9 LS anyway. And the traditional curved trigger, I actually shoot it better than the flat trigger with that big paddle on the front. But I'm sure some people I know, some people prefer a flat trigger. But for me, the jury's still out. Of course, I've had more time with curved triggers over the years, so that may be part of why I shoot better with that one. But I am excited. The Prime Carry shoots a lot faster. I'll tell you that. I don't know, a lot faster. It probably shoots 10-15% faster because of that ported barrel, which actually is ported. It's not just vented. It's actually ported.
Well, I haven't had a chance to shoot it. I was just doing a little bit of dry fire with it, but unfortunately, it seems to me that doesn't matter what the gun is. I shoot consistently adequate.
That's good enough.
I ain't gonna win no challenge coins. Although I do hope to win again, or maybe move up a step in the staff match or gunmakers match coming up here on May 10th.
Yep, that's right. I'm going to see you because we're doing another audiobook together, and then the gunmakers match. So I guess we got her back to your question. Look at that, Matt. Look how good your partner is. He got us back to the question. What's coming up?
Yeah.
May 10th in Western Pennsylvania at the Pitcairn Monroeville Sportsman's
Club.
Yep. So we've been there. This is our 5th year for the Gunmakers match, and this is the 3rd year that we'll be there in Western Pennsylvania with Klint helping us out as one of the hosts and helps with the RSOs and all that, and participates in the match. Really, really exciting. We've seen a lot of turmoil in the regulations and the rhetoric around ghost guns, and unfortunately, a lot of that has scared people away. There was a big boom in they can't tell us what to do when the government and the press first started talking about ghost guns and trying to demonize private gun making. And sadly, that kind of rhetoric and the lawsuits and the regulation changes, and none of them have stopped anybody from being able to 3D print a gun. In some states have changed, but federally, the laws haven't changed. All they did was say that certain kits couldn't be sold in certain ways. And unfortunately, that drove one of the biggest companies out of business, and it scared a lot of people from private gun making. So the 5th year of the Gunmakers match might be our smallest year yet, but we're hoping to remind people that it's still legal in the vast majority of states, and it's still a lot of fun.
Well, I plan on doing it. I didn't realize, because we interviewed Gideon Optics, and I didn't realize that I could just get the parts and put it together like that. I didn't have to actually print my own.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think I might do that for next year's, and unfortunately it's New York, so I would do it and put it under my FFL to make it legal here in New York.
Well, I built a G19, so I'm going to see if that'll run. But otherwise, I can reuse my my G17 that I made and came in second with last year. But I got to be honest, the only reason Rob came in third and I came in second, he was shooting better than me, but in the second to last stage, his gun fell apart.
I'm just bad at I don't 3D print frames as well as a lot of these guys. I enjoy the hobby, but sure enough, the gun failed. What was funny about it was the gun started cracking at early in the stages, and the 5th stage I never got to shoot, but the 4th stage, the whole dust cover, the whole accessory, everything else blew off the gun, but the gun still functioned enough to get me through most of that stage.
Yeah, you fired 3 shots after that fell apart. Yeah.
So I think you make a good point though, Matt, that there are states where you can't make your own gun. And you because you have FFL SOT, you can make one. Right. But there are states like Massachusetts, for example, where you would think you can't make a gun. You can make a gun. You just have like 7 days after you make it to report it. And obviously everything up there is registered already. In California, believe it or not, you can make your own gun. You just have to ask permission first, and then they send you a serial number or a marking that you have to put on the gun when you make it. So there are ways to engage it. Just because you make your own gun doesn't mean unserialized per se, but obviously for most people it is unserialized. And this year we're adding a launcher side event. So for 25 millimeter or larger projectile launchers, we're going to have a side event for them, because that's become something in the 3D printed gun community that's really caught on. There's a lot of cool designs out there, and I'm not going to have time to get one together myself, but I'm looking forward to seeing what those guys bring.
Maybe that's what I got to build next year. This makes me
innovation. Yeah.
This makes me think like I'm going to call the Gunmakers match if anybody ever asks, like, well, what is that? I'm like, well, it's kind of like pine card derby for adults.
Yeah, it actually is. And to see the innovation that, some like me, I printed a frame for a Glock 19 and got the parts and put it together, and which is, the idea of going like and making a gun. That's not a thing. Like, no. I've got a mobile of failed frames back here.
Gorilla duct tape. It's funny when you said that, Rob, or when Klint, you said it was cracking. First thing I thought was gorilla tape. That's Jerry thinking what my brain's thinking. All right, so you mentioned cutting guns up and porting slides and all that, Rob, and I was going to actually slip in there and say, go ahead and give the winner of the next one on the list.
Geez, all right, wait a second. Let's see.
We left off with the Gideon Optics.
Yep, so right after Gideon Optics.
So we're doing the Tactical Life Firearms Optic Cut Package for a Glock slide, and the winner is Rafael Ruiz.
Congratulations, Rafael. And
Klint, you want to do the next one? The next two together?
Oh, the Tactical Qualifier. This is Tactical makes some nice stuff, man. Had a really great opportunity. That was one booth I got to go spend a little bit of time with, because we were shooting a little product video that Matt did there for the show, and really great people, nice people. One of the owners, they're a married couple, and the woman, and her name escapes me, and I mean no disrespect by that. What's her name, Matt? Do you remember? Oh, now I threw him under the bus. But she was like, "Did you ever go to like your grandma's house?" And when you go to leave, she's like, "Oh, here's a sandwich, and here's a 6-pack of pop, and here's a can of pickles." And she was just handing us like, "Here's some mag pouches, and why don't you take another holster?" It was. Oh, well, thanks. Gee, thanks.
You came home with bags full of stuff, right?
And the last class I did, a lot of people got to leave with some. But the winner of the Tactical Qualifier GX2 Ambi Holster and Taurus Firearms GX2 9mm handgun. Wait, this is a holster and a gun as well. Are you ready for the winner?
Go.
The winner is Michelle Goodnight. Michelle, it's a good night for you because you won a holster and a gun.
We could have made that the last contest winner, and we could have just said Michelle Goodnight and
You
to all
made
good
the
night.
I knew you weren't going to be able to resist that.
But Tactical is Brian and Janet Wilson. They're the owners.
Janet.
And then Taurus is David Holland. So that's who we've been dealing with there. And I've known David for many years. So David's a good guy as well.
Cool.
Michelle Goodnight. Awesome. Great. And
I didn't get any free samples at any of these booths. I got to hang out with you guys. I did get a little bit of an industry discount though on this. I bought a trigger for a build I'm going to do. I can show that, right? YouTube's not going to this off. So I got a Schmid max grade trigger for a build that I'm working on now, and I thought they were talking up their triggers and telling me how great they were, and I checked out some of their samples. I'm like, you know what? I've tried a lot of good triggers. I got good triggers laying around, but let me support you guys at the show and let me pick one of these up. So I'm looking forward to checking this one out. 2-stage, 3.5 pounds for those who are interested.
So one other thing I want to mention about coming up, because you had mentioned that, and I kind of want to circle back to it again. I'm hosting Rob here in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh, on May 24th. So he's doing the Intuitive Defensive Shooting 1-day class. Nice. So anyone that wants to take that class, please sign up. That's a great one for someone that just wants to start carrying. And if you've been doing it forever, or even if you're an instructor in the methodology, because I've worked with a lot of those folks, you should come out and take the class take it from get the information from the horse's mouth. But that's Saturday, May 24th. I'll be hosting it. And depending on how many people show up, I'll be Rob's range monkey, or actually I'd really like to get on the line and get some rounds down range.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We didn't get to do a class last year. I think just things were busy here. I haven't taught as much as I used to with the launch of Avidity Arms and the workload here. But I'm looking forward to being on the range with you. I'm actually shoehorning that in. I'm going to be up there with, for the Gunmakers match, and I'm coming back down here. I got to go somewhere else. Then I'm working on there's a new TV show that's going to be out on Pursuit Network that I'm going to be doing a couple things with. And we're actually taping here right before I run up there to work with you. And then right after I'm done with you, I head up to Michigan Tactical Officers Association conference in Michigan, obviously. Awesome. So cool. Yeah, looking forward to being in Pennsylvania twice in the next month.
Yeah, I took a little bit of a slower year this year as far as the travels. I'm doing a little bit of a Saber OC instructor and probably putting together, a master instructor class sometime in the summer, I'm thinking. And then Klint's going to be coming up. You're going to be doing the PDN tour up here. So
Monday, August 4th, I'll be at your range doing the BYO EDC, bring your own everyday carry class. I'm calling on myself the BYOs, bring your own, because I've done my bring your own black rifle for a long time, BYO BR. So I'm doing BYO EDC and BYO GB, which is bring your own gun box. So my home defense classes I'm doing, I gotta make sure it works safely on the line. And if not, I have some vault text that people can use, but we're gonna have all the gun box on the table. So all the shooting exercises will start with beep, 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 open it up, magazine in, rack, and then they can do their course of fire from the table that way. So give people some opportunities to train with their gun boxes, which I think is something that most people don't do.
I think awesome. I have never thought to do that. I always, for the home defense tactics class, I always supply one that I know is going to work and is relatively simple to use. I had never thought about, and that just shows like where we are in the industry. I mean, 30 years ago, I was telling people, 20 years ago, I was telling people that these things existed, right? And we started with like gun vault videos at Personal Defense Network, and now everybody knows they exist. So we spent a lot, like you mentioned, Vaultec. Stopbox is another great company. If you don't like the electronics and all the stuff that Vaultec does at such a great high technology side, then Stopbox is sort of the fast mechanical side. There's a lot of great companies out there. You're right, Klint. I bet we are at a point where people can bring their own gun box, and I'm anxious to see how that plays out for you.
Yeah, cool. I'm excited about that. It'll be a good one.
Just make sure you don't bring your own gun when you come up here, or you might be put in the box.
Well, see, that's the thing. The last time I went up there to see Matt, I had to pay to basically transfer my gun to him and sell it to him. And then he had to like hold my hand the entire time I was shooting with it. And then I had to give it back to him to put magazines in it because I couldn't touch it. Yeah. So
I've jumped through those hoops in New York too. My hosts have had a looser interpretation of the rules than that, but the point is well taken.
Well, it's funny because I'm doing the fun gun shoot, and I've got a lieutenant colonel of New York State Troopers that's going to be coming to it, and I was brainstorming with him on like making sure everything's legal and we're doing everything good because full auto New York State doesn't like NFA stuff, and basically came down to it because the FFL is on the same property as the range, and everything's here, and we're doing it here, and nobody's leaving with the guns. They're using it at the range that's on the property where the FFL is registered, and then on top of that, background check for ammunition. Well, I'm also a keeper of ammunition, and as the instructor in a range, then I can give them the ammo without having to do a background check as long as they don't leave with any ammo. And if they leave with ammo, then I got to do a background check before they do.
So in New York, when you shoot full auto and the bolt locks back, do you just magically go and you got bracelets on your hands? Is that how you know the gun's empty? Because
it's funny. I had a call from a relative that's coming back into New York State today. He's actually coming over the border at 10, and he goes, "Hey, I know that there's magazine ammo restrictions, how much ammo you can have in the magazine." And I'm like, "Well, I mean, there is, but we don't enforce it in New York. It's just can't have more than a 10-round magazine." I said, "But you can't come into New York with any guns." And he's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like,
so Matt goes, prank caller.
he goes, what do you mean? My Oklahoma pistol license isn't good in New York. I go, "No, absolutely not."
Yeah.
He's like, "What can I do?"
I'm like, New Hampshire, isn't he? Just to clarify for anyone who might be listening, he's probably on his way to New Hampshire.
So I told him, you either got to find somebody in PA to give it to and let them hold it while you're in New York and then pick it up on your way out, or you've got to like meet me at the border and I'll take possession of it until you're done, and then meet me back at the border and I'll hand it to you when you leave the state. I mean, that would be the legalest way to do it. He's like, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah, nope. So anyway, speaking of people in New York State and guns, Otis Technology, the Otis Elite Universal Gun Cleaning Kit. The winner for that is going to be Stephen Ferris. Cool story with that. The Otis has been kind of a sponsor, giving us product and and whatnot for quite a while. And at SHOT Show, there you go. We got to interview Bill, and it's crazy because he's like, "Hey Matt, how you been?" I'm like, "Good." He's like, "You don't remember me, do you?" I'm like, "Sorry." It's like, "I took your Utah class 15 years ago." And I was like, "Was it good?" He goes, "Yeah, it was great." So, yeah, Otis has been around for a while. They are
Otis is also a PDN training tour sponsor, and Otis traditionally has been very, very good to instructors. When I first became an instructor, I don't know if I sent them an email or somehow I got connected. They sent me some cleaning kits to use in classes, and so I've been using their product for a while. It's great to have them on as an official sponsor. Very good people. That was a great episode, and people can see that episode on the YouTube channel.
Yes, they can, and they actually sent us some of the suppressor cleaning kits as well.
Yeah,
and I actually forgot to mention earlier, we got suppressors from Tactical Life that we've been. You just did a video for the suppressors and the cleaning kit that Otis sent. So there's videos up there as well.
I put my old Radio Shack sound pressure meter on and saw a significant decibel difference between the two. I wouldn't bet my life on the readings, but there was definitely a significant drop in dB, and it was interesting. I did the video, and then I went online and started looking how people measured the sound with it, and how off axis were they, and at what distance are they? I just kind of set the camera like if I were an instructor working with this guy that was shooting, and I would be standing probably here watching him shoot, like how much of a headache would I have at the end of the day if I'm on an indoor range? So it was kind of interesting, but
very true.
I think the trick there is it's kind of like you have to just be consistent with your test.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to give you a different opinion. They're going to tell you you're not an acoustically checked out, certified, whatever. But the decibel. So to your point, the number doesn't really matter. What matters is the difference you find in your tests. And that's how I do gel too now. At PDN, we just started using clear ballistics gel under the same conditions for everything. And that way, what you're getting is an apples to apples comparison with all of our videos. And the same thing, if you have a decibel meter, as long as you're 45 degrees off, 10 feet away every time,
same meter, same.
Then you're getting an apples to apples comparison.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, so the last giveaway, and then we'll mention the goals giveaways that we'll be doing, which is going to be coming up next. Active Self-Protection, the ASP Unlimited app subscription, 1-year subscription. The winner of that is Noah Saucier, Saucier, Noah Saucier.
Is it
I think it's
saucier or
saucier.
saucier?
Saucier, and Noah and
Mango
Asp.
cream pie saucier.
We are on the Asp Friends of Asp app as well, so you can check out episodes there.
Saucier. Never get out of the boat.
Never get out of the boat.
Never get out of the boat.
Absolutely goddamn right.
Apocalypse Now. He was a
Never get
saucier.
off the goddamn boat.
Yeah.
Clint,
Yeah,
you want to
that was
mention the
very cool.
goals?
We've got the show on active self-protection on the app on the app Asp Unlimited app, which is pretty cool. And also we still have the show running on Roku TV on the Ops Lens channel. We had a point there where some of the audio wasn't going up. Have we fixed that, or do I need to do something to make that better?
No, for what? For the TV stuff?
For our most recent stuff that we've put out.
Oh, the audio stuff. Yeah, no, we're working on it. We got a couple more up. We got to do some more.
Okay, cool. We'll have that business meeting later when we're not on the air.
For sure. Thanks, CJ. Yeah, and coming up August, we're going to be doing the giveaways for the Goals Gun Owners of America event they're doing down in Knoxville, Tennessee. And that's on the 9th and 10th of August. And it's the Gun Owners of America Gun Advocacy and Leadership Summit Goals. And we'll be doing giveaways there as well. We got a lot of the same sponsors. We might have a couple that swap out a little bit because they will be there, or some will be there, some won't be there at the Goals event. But this will be my first time going. I think your first time too, right, Clint?
Oh, absolutely.
Will we see you there?
Yep. Yeah, I was there last year. It was a good event. It was, first time event, well attended for what it was. It was reminded me of some of the early USCCA expos.
Yeah.
That kind of.
I think that filled that vacuum, didn't it? I think that's kind of
USCCA isn't doing that anymore. I was surprised they're going back to Knoxville again. I'm not. It's going to be interesting to see what happens now. Goal has been getting, GOA has been getting a lot of attention. Obviously, they got a lot of momentum. They have a lot of really strong supporters, and they have a lot of great influencers spreading the word. And you guys are going to be there. It's going to draw a few more people, I'm sure. I know one of the reasons I think they did really well in their first year, which normally I think they did better than a lot of people were expecting, was because the NRA convention was in Texas. It wasn't anywhere close, and an end user expo, like not like SHOT Show or NESGW, but a non-industry event, they tend to steal from one another, so I think the fact that we just had NRA in Atlanta, I'm just hoping that doesn't too negatively impact where August comes around and people are like, I just saw everything at Atlanta. So I know it'll be important for GOA to make sure that they highlight their speakers, they highlight the vendors that are going to be there, especially vendors that have new stuff, because we know that the old thing of everything comes out at SHOT Show is just not the way we do it anymore. So I'm hoping we see a lot of nice product debuts, and I know they're going to have a bunch of great speakers lined up, and I think it's definitely a worthwhile event to attend from what I saw last year.
Yeah, well, I sent a text to Eric Pratt earlier, and I got a couple ideas that Clint and I were talking about that we're going to try to help see if we can make that happen, like what you just talked about. So yeah, cool.
Well, cool.
Great night, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks everybody for watching and listening in and being part of it. Make sure you and the giveaways for Goals is actually going to be the entire month of August.
Yeah.
So the entire month of August. September 1st is when we'll draw the winner for that. So we'll give people a little bit more of time to be able to enter it, and we'll get a couple newsletters out throughout the month.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt. Even if folks don't go, they can enter for that. But if they do go, they'll get more opportunities to win because they can visit the booths.
Right. You got it. Super. Thanks, Rob. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks. If anybody wants to try to get on the range with me or Klint, pdntrainingtour.com. Not all the classes, but it does get updated. So keep an eye on that over the next few months. The tour runs through September, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. Well, I'll see you real soon, Klint, a couple times in the next month. And Matt, I'll see you on the internet until August, I guess.
Sounds good. Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Be safe. Have a good night.
Bye.